Friday. Welcome to People Are Talking.
I was listening to Jim Eason on KGO radio yesterday afternoon.
What a fellow.
And they had a caller call in and said, what about the possibility, because he had heard some rumblings in the mass media, national media, of Walter Cronkite running for president.
Ooh, now that's an idea.
I mean, I'm just curious. Does that sound interesting to you as voters, or is it... I mean, is it something we should maybe explore? How many would say yes?
Just raise your hand.
At least raise your hand. How many say it's a ridiculous idea? That's about... Yeah. But, you know, it does. On the surface, like Jim Eason said, it sounds ridiculous, and then you think about it. I mean, the man's the most trusted man in America, according to every poll.
Yes.
Yeah. He has no political baggage.
That we know of.
That we know of. We do not know where he stands on the issues, but it might be worth
We know
something.
he likes sailing. That's about all.
He likes to sail.
Yes.
And it can't be any worse than the candidates we have already.
Right. And he's got courage because he wanted to go up in space.
Yeah, so...
It's a good idea.
I just thought I would throw it out there because Jim has his interesting things on his program.
He sure does.
He always, I think, watches us. So, Jim...
You little devil.
Yeah.
Well, by now, probably most of you have seen this photograph of this man. It was in Vanity Fair, The Examiner, The New York Times, and many, many more publications. He calls himself Zen Master Rama, and he claims to be one of the 12 enlightened people on this planet. And he can teach you enlightenment, too, and meditation and peace and a good feeling about yourself. Sounds pretty wonderful, doesn't it? Well, recently, another image of Zen Master Rama has emerged. Some of his former followers accuse him of using mind control to break up relationships, drugs like LSD, even forced sex to control his followers. Well, we're going to look at both sides of this story this morning. You're going to hear from people who say, no, he is an enlightened teacher. And you're going to hear from other people who say, no, he is a cosmic seducer. Would you welcome three of his former followers, Annie Eastwood, Steve Putnam, and Nancy Knupfer.
Good morning. Welcome to all of you. Thank you for coming to visit us on People Are Talking. Annie, let's begin with you. And before we tell the story of you saying that Zen Master Rama raped you, what turned you on to him in the first place? What attracted you to him?
Well, first of all, I had been meditating on my own for some years, and I thought that was a good idea. I wanted to be motivated to meditate on a daily basis. I thought that was discipline and a very good idea. So I had recently moved to LA, and I was scrambling to get my life together in a new city. And I wanted to, you know, be more motivated to meditate. So that was part of my interest in going to him.
When you went to him, what impression did you have? Obviously, he made a great impression on you. Or were you skeptical at first?
Well, I was a mixed bag myself. I went there, I saw his ad. I could not believe the audacity of this ad saying his credentials were past lives. However, I have to say that at that time, I was very open and even endorsed the idea of reincarnation from meditation that I had done in previous disciplines.
So he had no mortal credentials. They were all past life.
He had a PhD in English, you know, I mean, that, you know.
Did you see the ad with the woman sitting on top of the Porsche?
No, that happened while I was there.
I see. Okay.
He was much more, his presentation, his persona was much more downplayed than, although saying you were a Zen master in Kyoto, Japan is not all that downplayed, but I went there saying this guy is either the biggest con man walking the face of the earth or he's for real.
So what did he say to you, Annie? I mean, or to the
He didn't say anything to me, but I went to and he walked out. He was very unassuming. He was wearing, you know, just a basic sports coat and some slacks and said your basic truths. And, you know, nothing new. Truth isn't new.
What are some of the basic truths, just for us who may not be?
Oh, what would be a basic truth? Oh, I don't know. What are some of the basic
Well, just the basic principles: karma, dharma, the catchwords, the traditional.
Be in the now.
Yeah.
The buzzwords that make us all say, whoa.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
All right.
So, you went with skepticism. He came out very unassuming. He gave us the basic truths. This is nothing new to you. What was it then, Annie, that made you go, Wow.
Well, first of all, I didn't go, wow. I listened to his presentation. I thought he was witty. I thought he was a nice person. And I resonated with things he said. Then he said, let's meditate. And I had a good meditation. I had a very good meditation. So I thought, well, that's interesting. I wonder why I had a good meditation. I'd never been to a public meditation before. And so I thought, well, I'll come back tomorrow night and check it out. Maybe it was just a good night for me. Maybe it was the audience. Or maybe he had something to do with it. I don't know. I'm curious. So I went back the next night, and he said basically the same rap. He was a nice guy, witty, and I had another good meditation. So I thought, well, that's interesting. You know, maybe this would be good. It'd motivate me to meditate. And he said, well, if you want to be a student, you just stay after. And what that would entail is meditating with me once a week. So I thought, well, why not? I'll just check the guy out, go once a week.
Now, you're living in Los Angeles. He's in Malibu, right?
I didn't know where he lived at the time, but he was moving to Malibu. I guess he just recently moved to Malibu, but I didn't know that at the time. Mm-hmm. I knew that he was having meditations, and well, after I signed up to become a student, the student body was meeting in Manhattan Beach for meditation. So I didn't know he lived in Malibu at that time.
So when was it, Annie, that you got hooked? Is not grabbed, obviously. When was it that you became enthralled, or you really?
Well, while I was there for a month, going once a week, and after the first month is when he invited me to a special meditation at his house.
Just you and
I felt very special. No, I didn't know that. I thought it was going to be a group meditation. But when you got there,
it was
that was the shock and the surprise. But he had alluded to in these lectures that he had a staff who I didn't know who they were, and I didn't really care, and but that he as the teacher could perceive who was spiritually ripe, at which point it would be very advantageous for those people to be with him. He could assist them to faster spiritual progress, the goal being enlightenment or the truth, seeing the truth.
So some of this was ego. I mean, he had selected you out of...
Oh, I felt special. Of course I felt special.
And you were spiritually right, and so you arrive at his home. What happens once you're alone with Zen Master Rama?
Well, first of all, I think I'm going to a group meditation where he's going to take us out to nature and meditate somewhere. He had alluded to taking students to the movies. You know, he's kind of a radical, and that appealed to me too, a bit of a spiritual rebel. You know, and I was not a promoter of, I didn't want to be a part of religion or anything like that, so that appealed to me. So this is what I thought I was going for, and when I got there, first of all, he prepped me by saying, listen, I'm going to really trust you, Annie, and I'm going to let you know where I live. But I don't want you to tell anyone because, you know, people always want to know where the teacher lives, you know. And that sounded logical to me, so I didn't tell anyone. And I show up there, and there's the iron gate, and I speak into the box, and the gate rolls back, and I drive in, and the gate clanks shut, and I don't see any cars around, and I don't see any other students. And I start feeling nervous, like I wasn't told I was going to be seeing the teacher by myself.
Why don't we take a commercial break and come back and find out once you got through the gates and all inside the house what happened. Be back in a moment. This morning on People Are Talking. Annie, you were saying you're inside the gate now. There's nobody else there. You thought it was going to be a group spiritual kind of enlightenment session. You're alone with Zen Master Rama.
Yeah, he greets me in short shorts, a T-shirt, and socks. This is the teacher that I've only seen up on a stage at the far end of the room. Hi, come on in. And so then for the next 6 hours, he intimidates me. He's the authority. He knows the answers. I don't. The object is to get me to doubt myself. He's always an authority in areas I couldn't say yay or nay. The invisible worlds, you know, whatever, occult energies. And culminating after 6 hours of this, me getting progressively more nervous and scared and thinking, don't be silly, Annie, this is your spiritual teacher, what's wrong? This is a person you can trust. And then he takes me on a tour of the house where the offices are, and it winds up in his bedroom, and I'm going, what am I doing in his bedroom? What does this have to do with anything? And he locks the door, and there's nobody around. So that's when my fear kicks in, and I say, if sex is on the agenda, I don't want to do it. And he says, the heck you don't. And I go, okay, good, Annie, no one knows where you are, and here you are, and sex is the meditation, and no is not one of the boxes of the above choices. So he intimidates me for about 2 or 3 more hours, one of which he sat there silently with me and did not say a word for an hour while the sun set. I'm like so scared out of my wits. And then he goes in the bathroom, comes out, there's a loaded gun. I jump about 3 feet away.
He's holding the gun.
Yes. And he says, what's the matter? I'm going, they're good. And he says, what, this? But this is all for my own protection. And he puts it down by the bed. And now sex is a meditation. Well, that was enough. Rape is really about power over. It's called power rapes. You only use as much force as is necessary to reach the goal, which is to render another person totally helpless and to humiliate them. That is what rape is about. Sex is the medium.
Now, there are going to be a lot of questions of why you didn't run and how long were you with him after that, and we'll get to those in a moment.